Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first video of a series in which I look into the alt-right's views and objectives and doctrine. I originally intended for this video to be just one video, but upon researching the subjects, admittedly for the first time, I soon realized it would be best to make individual videos dedicated to one subject at a time. Furthermore, my intentions with these videos is to lay out the alt-right in a non-biased manner. Now, at the end of each video, I will give my opinion. Now, do realize that when I give my opinion, I am not looking to validate one side or the other. If you disagree with my opinion, feel free to give your arguments in the comment section below. Now, with that being said, let's have a look at the topic of race realism. In 1994, the book The Bell Curve was released, written by psychologist Richard J. Herrnstein and political scientist Charles Murray. The Bell Curve argued that human intelligence is substantially influenced by both inherited genetics and environmental factors. It also put forth the idea that intelligence is a better predictor of personal dynamics, such as financial income, birth out of wedlock, job performance, and involvement in crime. Seems like a non-controversial book, right? Well, here's where Murray and Herrnstein hit the outrage G-spot. In their studies into human intelligence, Murray and Herrnstein found that race played a factor in human intelligence, i.e., whites on average have a higher IQ than blacks, and Asians on average had a higher IQ than any of the races. Now, granted, I'm not a scientist, but to the average American layman in the modern era, images of Herr Doctor performing fucked up experiments on anorexic 10-year-olds would 9 out of 10 be the first thing that comes to mind when the topic of race and IQ is brought up. However, the more one goes down the rabbit hole, the more one sees that it's a possibility. For instance, it's a well-known fact that blacks are more at risk for heart problems such as hypertension than any other race. Through the power of modern forensics, we can take the skeletal remains of a human and determine the race of said skeleton and where it came from. If there was no difference in genetics of the races, the 23andMe test wouldn't be a thing. If you were to have a genetic anomaly, such as albinism, people would still be able to tell if you were a black, white, Hispanic, or Asian albino just by looking at your features. The constant push of egalitarian absolutism has made recognizing the differences between the human races a cardinal sin. It has become the topic that must not be discussed. Now, with that being said, egalitarianism isn't the only thing that has been placed beyond reproach. Science has turned into something of a holy law in some circles. People have this attitude that science is the undisputable truth for everything. Variables be damned. When in fact, any scientist worth their salt will tell you that science is an absolute. While on average blacks have a lower IQ than whites and Asians, there will always be exceptions to this. Take Dr. Ben Carson, for example. Regardless of what you think about him, the man has to be some sort of genius in order to be a brain surgeon. And when you know it, the guy is blacker than the ace of spades. One could also look at good old W. Now, how this retarded motherfucker managed to be a 2-term president is way beyond me. Now, I know I'm gonna trigger some people out there by saying this, but it's true. The idea that a scientific study is 110% true or false, and that there is no middle ground whatsoever in the results, is an intellectually dishonest thought to have, which is why a very rare minority of race realists are of the opinion that every black person has a lower IQ than whites, even though a majority of opponents to race realism would have you believe otherwise. Now, with that being said, I'd like to dip the toe into the causation of the influence that genetics has over intelligence. Now, while a lot of people out there may speculate, I have come to find that the most reasonable explanation is that it is a genetic evolution that has been formed over years upon years upon years upon generations of living in certain environments. Now, take a look at Africa. Now, despite what an atypical liberal arts college professor may say, Africa was a harsh place way before the days of English colonialization and the European slave trade. Between deadly animals, fatal diseases, and warring tribes, it's not a stretch to say that these factors have made it a necessity to put strength and endurance above intelligence, not for just one generation, but many. As time marched on, strength and endurance became more pronounced in the African genetic code. So, in conclusion, when presented with the question, is race real? After looking at the data and mulling it over, my answer is yes, race is in fact real. Now, while I do believe that there are differences between the races, there are a few things that cause me pause, however. One being the usefulness of the data. While one could use the data to explain certain things like medical explanations and crime rate, beyond that, it really doesn't offer any solutions. Another problem that I see with the arguments for race realism, at least when it comes to race realism in America, one thing people don't recognize is the shit-tastic state of the American school system, namely public schools. Let's take a look at America's inner cities. Nine times out of 10, if you live in a inner city, you've attended or currently are attending a public school. Another fact on American inner cities is that the majority of the population that makes up inner cities is black. Now, I haven't given the subject of racism an honest look until recently, so there might be someone out there who has addressed this. If there is, then shoot me a link. With that being said, I can't help the feeling that if the school system was actually fixed, and by fixed, I mean if teachers actually gave a flying fuck about their jobs, and textbooks were updated once every 10 years instead of once every 70 years, then I'd wager that the IQ of the black community would go up a few notches, and eventually it would be on par with the white community here in America. Hey guys, Red Triangle here. Welcome to the end of the video. I'm glad you made it. Anyway, if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and most importantly, comment below. Not because I want my stuff to hit the front page of YouTube, but because I genuinely have an interest in what people have to say. Thanks for watching, and peace.